Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and another Euro 2020 preview before the big tournament kicks off. And this one is a big one because we've got the best squad in the competition in my mind, France. But will they have the best team and will they go on and be one step better off than they were in 2016 when of course they were losing finalists in their own country against Portugal? Before we get into this video, make sure you go check out the other previews. We've got Germany, we've got Italy, we've got Portugal, we've got Spain, we've got loads of other countries. So make sure you go check those out and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Keep it locked. It's going to be intense on this channel when it comes to the Euros. So the one thing that you've got to do, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss a video when I go live or when I just drop a video. We've got a team here that is still really young, still really solid, and it has to be one of the favourites for the competition. But there are some questions. Because Didier Deschamps, who is he wasn't very popular as a manager going into the 2018 World Cup because there was a feeling that with so much talent, the pragmatism that Didier Deschamps showed as a player and was showing as a manager was something that was going to hold back the team. Of course, it didn't hold them back. They were able to win that World Cup. The pedigree with this French squad is there for all to see, and it's a young squad that is getting into its prime years. The biggest talking point will be how you fit in all these attacking players. A bit like Portugal, they've got that kind of squad depth where someone's going to have to miss out. So who will that be, especially on the topic of someone like Olivier Giroud? The reason he didn't leave in January was probably down to the fact that Didier Deschamps just loves him so much. He has been that backboard for this team, and he's a French legend. 107 appearances, 42 goals, which is actually a little bit better than we probably would have expected. Makes him one of the all-time top scorers. He's actually second at the moment. And the amount of goals, as I say, is surprising because he has always been that backboard for the team. But moving forward, surprisingly, Karim Benzema is back in the squad. So what does this mean for Olivier Giroud? And having a look at some of the previous games, will they even want to play a target man? So what can we expect from this France side? Well, the answer is kind of more of the same, certainly when we look at the back four. The back four from that World Cup final, 3 of the 4 remain, and 3 of the 4 are, still heading into the prime of their career. In that World Cup final, you had Lucas Hernandez, Umtiti, Varane and Pavard. The beauty of this back four is that, like I say, they are relatively young and still have future tournaments to come for them. The only change of that back four is Umtiti coming out and Kimpembe coming in, which is a pretty good swap. The only surprise is Aymeric Laporte, who at 26 still doesn't have a cap for France and so has switched nationalities, now going to be playing for Spain. So I think what that highlights again is that despite that depth, there's so much consistency in the back four for France, and that can only put them in good stead because they're not going to be conceding too many goals. And this long-term familiarity is highlighted in the fact that how formidable they were in the Euro qualifying. Only 6 goals conceded in 8 matches. It feels like the game against Ukraine recently, where they drew 1-1, could have been a clear moment where Didier Deschamps thought, maybe Olivier Giroud's not my guy. Since then, he didn't play the next 2 games. And you could see from the average positions, both when he played against Ukraine, where he got a 6.3 rating in that game from SofaScore, and then the next 2 games, the difference. Because when he plays, the team is very structured in how they play, which isn't a bad thing. But as time goes on, this could be something that maybe feels a little bit like it's easy to kind of judge and therefore defend against opposition. Maybe Didier Deschamps wants to kind of move away from that pragmatic approach and use different strikers and have a sort of floating front line. So in the next game, Giroud was dropped, Anthony Martial came in, and it was a much more free-flowing system, but it was one that left Griezmann a little bit isolated. Normally you would have Giroud there as that backboard to utilise and then play the other players in, but in this game you had Anthony Martial, who's kind of sort of hugs to the left. He's a little bit off centre, and because of that, Griezmann is in the exact same area of the pitch, but he doesn't have anyone to kind of help him out or to bounce off. And also you can see that free-flowing nature of it with the average positions because of the likes of Thomas Lemar and Ousmane Dembele in very, very different positions here. And it kind of worked. I mean, they got the victory. It was a 2-0 win, but one of those goals was an own goal. But overall, one of your key men over the last 5 or 6 years, Griezmann, wasn't really feeling it and doing it. So in the next game against Bosnia and Herzegovina, Again, the performance was okay, but it felt like it was kind of moving towards something that might work a little bit better for France. Because what you saw with this one was that Mbappe, of course, came back into the side, and there was a focus in trying to get him in as that kind of attacking forward for the team. But in terms of Antoine Griezmann, he played as almost like that central striker, almost a little bit like a Firmino. But the difference was here is that he had some players to kind of have some combinations with, the likes of Lamar and Kingsley Coman. You had the fullbacks being able to bomb on a little bit more, and although it looks like a 4-4-2 when you look at the formation, when it comes to the average positions, you can see that Griezmann has a couple of buddies there to kind of work with, but also that the focus is that out ball to try and find Mbappe and get him into space and get him the opportunities. Mbappe, as we know, is super comfortable in one-on-one situations, and he had the most successful dribbles of any player on the pitch, 3 out of his 5 dribbles. And for Thomas Lemar, through the middle, he actually looked a lot more comfortable as well, with 50 successful passes, which is pretty high up for an attacker. So with Benzema coming into the fold, the question here is, does Didier Deschamps continue with this false 9 system, or does he kind of revert back to what has been so successful for the team over the past few seasons? I would be surprised if Benzema didn't play a big part in this and therefore return back to that structured nature that you've seen before. But it's about kind of finding the key men and getting the best out of them. So who are the key men for France? Well, first up, Antoine Griezmann is one of those guys. To emphasise this, if you look at him over the last few years, his SofaScore ratings at the following competitions: at the Euros in 2016, he was 3rd for France with 7.64. At the World Cup in 2018, he was 3rd again, 7.43. And then we look at the qualifying campaigns, Euro 2020, he was 1st for the team in terms of his SofaScore rating with 8.21. And for the World Cup games so far, again, he's the best player for France. And the reason for this has been that previous formation. So you really can see the thinking of Didier Deschamps in the fact that Griezmann's his guy, and how do you get the best out of Griezmann? Well, you play Giroud up there with him. So to answer the question from before, I believe that the truth is that Giroud will be used, but as a substitute. But you will go back to that old structure where you have that front man, and then that allows Griezmann to do as well as he has done over the last few years. Because back in Euro qualifying, he had an output of a goal contribution every 90 minutes. So 10 games, 3 goals, and listen to this, 7 assists. 7 assists. 4.2 key passes per game during these qualifiers, which is extraordinarily high over, a 10-game sample, which reinforces the fact that he got those 7 assists and the fact that he wasn't lucky in getting those 7 assists for the side. And in terms of him being part of the team, he is, to a point, the heartbeat of the team from an attacking threat. Because if you look at the Euro qualifying, 76.3 touches per 90 is incredibly high. So he is front and centre one of the key men, because you're going to have Mbappe looking to go beyond. So you need someone who's going to both create the space for him, but also get the ball to him. So let's talk about that man, Kylian Mbappe. I mean, what a frightening footballer he is. He's also got probably one of the coolest celebrations in the game as well. And at 22, to have already won the World Cup, have 42 caps and 16 goals, you do feel like, obviously, the best is yet to come for Kylian Mbappe, especially in a France squad with such depth. But when you look at the World Cup qualifying, it's only 3 games. It has been a little bit disappointing. In those 3 appearances, he's only averaging 1 shot per 90, hasn't got a goal so far. But the caveat for all of that would have to be the fact that Mbappe has been struggling with injuries at times, which we've seen from the Champions League and him not being able to play in those Man City games. So I think coming into the tournament, if you've got a fit Kylian Mbappe, then it's going to be pretty scary. I think what you want to see is the Kylian Mbappe from the Euros, where 5 appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists, that's 6 goal involvements in 5 matches, and he was also registering 3.2 successful dribbles per 90, accompanied with his 5.4 total duels won per 90. So he was running at the opposition and you really were getting the best of him, which again leads us down this path that they want that backboard, they want to go back to that old way of playing. They're going to throw out this tactic that he was starting to look to develop. So with all that fluidity and 4 people flying forward in terms of the attacking side of it, you then see from those average positions that you do need that little bit of structure in midfield, and that will come with the midfield too. But again, so many great players that France have, the likes of Rabiot, but also the likes of Kante and Pogba. You can't play all of them, so who will they play? I think Kante has to be a shoo-in because of what he offers defensively. Since making his debut in 2016, he's been absolutely excellent for them. And it's because of what we all know about Kante. He offers so much defensively, and then he gets the ball to the better exciting players. We saw that in 2018, and the partnership that he had with Paul Pogba, it was kind of utilising the strengths of both. The one stumbling block or uncertainty when it comes to Kante is the fact that he actually hasn't played that much for France over the last few years. When it comes to the World Cup qualifying recently, he's only made one appearance so far. And for the Euros, the qualifying there, he only actually played 3 games there. But when he did, you saw just how great he was. 7 successful ground duels per game with a success rate of 78%. Which is pretty ridiculous. 5.7 successful tackles per 90. So he's getting out there and making those tackles. That's his role. That's all he's got to do. Then give it simple to someone else. He can do a little bit more than that, but you are really getting prime Kante when his one focus is destroying the opposition and then giving it simple. And he also didn't make a single error in any of those games that led to a shot. Not a goal, but a shot. I think it will be Pogba who plays alongside Kante because of his passing range and because of the pace that you've got up top with the likes of Mbappe, Lamar, Ndombele, Kingsley Coman as well. You'd be amiss to not play Pogba, especially when he's got that insurance of N'Golo Kante. Pogba's another one that actually hasn't played that much for France over the past 2 years, but in the second half of this season, he's been absolutely fantastic for Man United. And what you might see with him is playing in that deeper role and getting on the ball constantly for this team. During the Euro qualifiers, he was averaging 107 touches per 90 and 84.3 accurate passes, which is a pass completion rate of 88%, which is really strong for a midfielder, of course, who's getting on the ball. And importantly, 58.5 of those passes were in the attacking half. So with a settled back four, a plethora of options in midfield, and the bringing back of a player who was out of the cold but has had probably the greatest season in his career, France are looking pretty strong, I think it's fair to say. They're on a similar trajectory that they were in 2018. They are the favourites. They're expected to do really well. And I think I see them going all the way, to be honest. I really can't see anyone stopping them because they have the clinical striking of someone like Mbappe. They have the balance in different roles. They have that little bit of extra depth if they want to play that structured way, which I think they will play that structured way in terms of Benzema and then bringing on someone like Giroud. Griezmann just seems to catch fire when it comes to playing for France. And N'Golo Kante. When N'Golo Kante plays for teams, they generally win football matches. So for me, I see them going all the way to the final. And if a team is to beat this France side, it's going to come down to 2 things for me. Possibly an off day, which I don't really see happening because I think the hunger is there from winning that World Cup. I think often you see teams doing well in 2 separate tournaments. With this squad and how young they are and how many years left they have in the tank, it's about hunger. And although they've won that World Cup, I think they want that element of revenge or to double it up almost and win a Euros as well. But they seem to have all the ingredients you would need, and then they've just added that little sprinkling of Karim Benzema. So I see them winning the tournament. But what do you guys think about France? Do you agree with me? And who's going to be the key man for France in this team? Or is there going to be a surprise here that I'm not looking at? Let me know down below. Make sure you check out the other previews. They're fantastic, if I do say so myself. I'll see you next time for the next Euro preview.